And the other thing that I do, again, is biting the filament.
It is a completely different aspect to deal with a business owner who is in it every single day and has a valuable understanding of not just their product but their target. That kind of leads me into the V6 is still alive and well. The Revo came out, and a lot of us kind of saw, right? There was that little the little cheeky grab you did in the video for when you did the rebrand of the website with the nozzles in it. And I'm glad that like 6 of us caught that.
In the logo?
No, in the timeline. In the timeline for the video when you guys rebranded the website, in the timeline was the Revo nozzle.
Oh, I see. Yes. Yeah. It was that. Just the please speculate.
Yeah. And a lot of us like, ooh. Is the V6, I mean, we see that there's an Obsidian V6 nozzle. Is there expectation that the V6 will be continued to be supported for the foreseeable future, or are you guys going to be kind of slowing down those lines here?
If Revo doesn't suck, then I would imagine that we would be selling more Revos than V6s. But if people still want to buy V6 stuff, then why the hell would we stop making it? Because it's basically if you have the brass and you have the Swiss machines, then it's basically a software problem to crank them out on demand, right? Yep. So it may be that some like old parts might get a touch more expensive to account for the fact that they're not being made in quite as much volume anymore.
That's not unreasonable though.
Certain products might stop being like real obscurities, or but might stop being sold in like pre-made kit form, for example. But all of the components that you would need to make that kit, it's just that we won't like have the like volcano eruption pack maybe, and all of the like things in the like pre-packaged, because each one of those things we have to pre-pack stock into those so that we can do same-day dispatch. So that means that we have to keep at least like 5 to 10 eruption packs in stock, and that consumes a lot of stock. And so we won't be like rebuilding those once those go out of stock, probably. So you get the idea. Like you might see like some of the top line products being like no longer sold as full like things, but you will still be able to buy. I mean, you're still going to be able to buy a V6 175 24 volt kit for sure, but you might not get like the more obscure gold kits in 12 volt 3mm, for example. That kit might not be available anymore because pre-picking, boxing, having a SKU for, a shelf space for, and having someone that has to like check the can back, like all of these things like induce overheads.
Yep.
And overheads cost money, and that means that we have to put more margin on the products when we sell them to you in order to keep the amount of cash at the bank, which is the reality of the situation, because the business take about Obsidian, right? So just the tooling for the coating to be applied is somewhere in the region of like $70 kilodollars. That's just what the nozzles get put on to be washed, degassed and coated. But in order to make it cost effective, we have to fit thousands of nozzles into one coating run.
Right.
And so you've got this like enormous magical microwave that puts the fairy dust on top of the Obsidian nozzle, and which is basically what it looks like. But it's a huge vacuum chamber, right? You can't do hard vacuum processes in a non-batch format.
Right. Yeah, it takes too long.
And the things are, well, it's just physically impossible, right? You can't have a continuous line. Like, there are these huge vacuum like chambers, and you have to completely degas them. So you got to pack that thing to the nines, and they're a big chamber. So
and with little tiny nozzles, yeah, they fit well.
And the fixturing inside that chamber has to spin all of the nozzles around, and all of the like things holding the nozzles rotate in multiple axes to get all the pixie dust to land in the right places in a nice even sheen.
A lot of us saw the CNC Kitchen video that just came out on the Bondtech nozzle, which is licensed from 3D Solex. Is there any plans for that? Because I looked at it and said, damn, I need to get a couple of those, because I have some high flow printers that, I mean, geez, he was seeing 40 millimeters cubed per second on a V6 style hot end. That's insane. Is there a plan for that or something along those lines in the Revo? Or V6? Well, V6 doesn't matter because Bondtech's already doing it, but is there one for Revo?
I wonder if that patent's been... There should be a patent.
It is patented, yeah. Bondtech licensed it from 3D Solex.
I guess that the answer is that there's another patent that I think we'll publish quite soon with a different approach.
I'm looking forward to that because, of course, there are two Revos minimally that we haven't seen yet, and my best guess is one of them's high flow, the other one's high temp. But you know, until we're able to peel off the pixelation.
What we were trying to infer there is that there would be future heatsink geometries. That's what i.e. like, you know, and some of them might be done by us, some of them might be done by others, you know, like a community, like, I don't know, the Voron guys, for example, as a community might design a heatsink and then get it made by someone, or we might make it for them, or something along those lines. But it's just to say that, like, there isn't really any finality in the V6 and micro sinks, and that we plan and hope that us and others will create a slew of, and we will try and make it as easy as possible for others to create a slew of other different mounting varieties and options.
I like that.
And
I like that.
It's a very easy hot end to cool because the tube-based hot ends, the real trick to it is that the cold-drawn needle tubing is in the order of 3 times stronger than its annealed cousins that you would machine heat break from bar stock into. So you can have exactly the same material in bar stock that is, you know, that you cut into a heat break. But if you take that material and draw it and stretch it into a tube, the act of doing so aligns the metallic grain structure,
right,
and creates dislocations, actually harden and strengthen. Or it's like heat treatment,
right? Yeah,
of steels. So you actually make it 3 times stronger by the act of squishing it and drawing it into a tube, and that means that you can make the walls much thinner.
Yeah. Yep. And
because they're way thinner, your cross section upward conduction is much lower. You combine that with actually a lot of the load on a heatsink is due to radiative and convective effects as well.
Right. Yeah, because it's just literally the heat rising as it does.
Yeah, but on Revo, at the top, we've got lower emissivity, and we've got a much smaller, more insulated, tiny little heater core compared to a big fat heater block that's chunking out heat all over the place, compared to the Revo, which is ultra tight.
I love when people look at, you know, the heater cartridges and they're like, oh, 40 watts is not hot. I said, have you ever put your hand on a 40 watt light bulb before? Do you realize how much heat that really is? It is a non-trivial amount of heat. And when it's coming out of a cartridge that's like 6 by 15 millimeters, there is not a lot there, right? That cartridge can get stupid hot. And I love this whole idea of the wraparound.
We only do 30 watt by default. That's like, this is such a misunderstood thing. That will never, ever limit your melt throughput rate, right? Because the heater cartridge isn't melting the plastic. The walls of the hot end, of the nozzle, the inside, is melting the plastic. So as long as you keep those, you have enough power available to keep those walls at whatever temperature set point you are choosing to use,
right?
A mister, that's it. And you can sit there and we've done the maths. And there's, you get really nerdy about this, but there's something called differential scanning calorimetry, which is something that basically allows you to melt. It's done a lot on plastics, but you can do it for any material, I guess. But it allows you to measure like the amount of energy that's absorbed or released due to like crystallization and glass transitions, the melting process. And so it's not just the heat capacity, but the phase change energy. And you can, like, the area under the curve lets you like figure out how many joules of energy is required to take X amount of plastic from this state and temperature to this state and temperature. And you multiply that by a flow rate, and you end up figuring out how many watts you need to melt a given flow rate. I don't think that anyone is ever going to use more than 10 watts.
I mean, looking at Joe Spanier's video of how fast the Revo heats up, like, good Lord have mercy. Like, I would question if the tool changer bed can get the temperature faster than the Revo could, because that tool changer bed can rip. But man, the Revo is just insane for heating, and that's good because that means viably we're able to increase our flow rates and be able to run our machines faster. And as a small business, time is money. And yeah, if I can run my machines faster and not see any issues, gonna do it every day of the week.
It's also, if we look to future applications, if you're doing things like tool changing or IDEX and stuff like that, being able to like grab a hot end and like it be turned on, and then by the time you're at the part be up to temperature.
That's beautiful, yeah.
That's tight. And the same with cooling back down, and also the rate at which you get to, but not overshoot, your set point temperature. If you're slowly slogging up to there, you're kind of degrading the plastic in the nozzle and it's melting, which means that then you need to have a big long old purgy run to like
clean it out,
squeeze out the goober and get it ready. Because also at the end of the last print, it was cooling down really slowly, cooking the plastic and goobering it out, and then you heat it up slowly, it cooks the plastic more and goober. If those two things are really quick, why not just go straight to printing? And I think that's possible, because especially if you finish print and you turn the nozzle off, and if you can get it to cool fast enough such that the amount of ooze is low enough that you can just immediately get to work on the next print by just putting the nozzle near the bed, heating it right up, and then immediately getting to work. I think that that's possible with Revo.
I mean, that's amazing. And with this lighter Hemera coming out, right, that's just adding to it. And I've got one of the original pancake steppers from E3D. I love and hate this thing at the same time. And when I saw the lighter, because I had to turn up the amperage so high that I'm like, this doesn't work. And I ended up putting a full size E3D stepper on it. Took the amperage down in half, and the motor stays nice and toasty. What is the plan with the Hemera? Because it's something that I'm concerned about, right? You know, if I want to get clearly lighter is better, especially if you're running a direct drive system. How are you handling a lack of torque, right? Thinner motor, lacks torque, but still get the same performance? Is it just it doesn't need the bigger motor and the small one works great?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe that there is 0 performance degradation. Well, the motor is sized and tuned to skip just before the hobs would rip through the filament.
I do like that. That's good.
Which is intentional. And so there's a little bit of margin there. So you might, like, because we've intentionally clipped off that bit of like uncertainty space up there, because that's the danger area. You don't want to be in strip land. So we've intentionally clipped off that dangerous uncertainty area at the top. So yeah, there's some like theoretical loss in the absolute peak torque that you could get just before the teeth rip through the filament, but you don't want to be up there. So we'll clipped off like 10% that you didn't want, or something like.
We have our big ass D-bot, as I call it, because it's 400 by 400 by 788. She's a bit of a big girl. Getting a brand new Z-axis, I said, this lighter Hemera, that might be a lot of fun. But I said, that was the machine I originally had the light Titan Aero on. I said, I don't know, man. That was such a nightmare to do, but this is good. Is it just a drop in? So if I have a regular Hemera right now, can I remove it, put in the lighter one, make no changes, stepper motor drivers, and it's happy?
I believe you may have to do some
turn it up a little bit.
You'll have to follow the documentation on that one.
Sounds like a plan.
It's probably, I mean, if your thing's currently tuned for a larger motor, you probably have to turn the current down a wee bit.
That's fair.
And it will be running pretty toasty, but well within the bounds of what is safe and reasonable.
I would love for stepper motors to sense their own temperature and be able to communicate back to the board to say, hey, I'm getting a little warm here. Can we turn me down a little bit and adjust speeds and feeds and all of that to deal with keeping those, so you could run them effectively right at the edge of their life? We
buy those little stick-on thermometers. You seen these things?
Yeah.
We stick those on everything, like everything, everywhere. Like we have like a chamber that. Well, I said actually we just. Oh my god! I went into the workshop because I've been taking a break after TCT and announcing Revo. I went to the workshop the other day, and the guy have bought this enormous. I think it's actually on lease for a little while. But I was like, the first thing I was like, oh my god, what is this thing and how much did we pay for it? It's like enormous, like this enormous environmental chamber, and it can emulate everything from humidity, temperature, partial pressure, so you can emulate different altitudes and humidities, and you can also inject your own custom 11 herbs and spices into the gas mix. So
I like that. So you've been able to test it, hell or high water kind of scenarios.
Yeah, this is for a product that we haven't talked about yet, but it's very important in design of complex plastic products. Precision engineered polymer products that you account for thermal expansion, contraction, and also moisture absorption, which causes polymers to swell and soften. So they change their flexural and elastic moduluses quite significantly, and also change in size and shape. Like I mean, you must be familiar with nylon. It comes off the bed
Every
and you
now
put
and
a
then.
part and it's all like stiff and it's super stiff. And then you leave it out in the open air for a few days and it begins to lose some of its rigidity.
Especially here in Florida, it's
Right.
still a little sticky. It's like 32°C right now.
Yeah, I've lost the sunlight coming in through my skylight up here.
That is nice though. Skylights are nice.
Yeah, living like a king, E3. My
Takes
empire.
work home with them.
This is my shame here. Do you know what these are? Tools
No.
from IKEA.
Oh yeah, those are IKEA tools.
Yeah. Because it's like, I needed them there and then, and I was like, oh, I could go into the workshop and get like my nice Japanese engineer pliers, or I could just buy this £10 kit that has the pliers in it I need to build the chair, and
It'll be good enough.
it'll be good enough, and it means I won't have to drive to work and wait a day and be nagged about it because I forget to bring the tools.
I say, and
home.
then forget to bring it back multiple
Yeah,
times. Yeah, no.
It's like, okay, but it's like,
Been there, done that.
yeah, it's like engineer's shame. Like, yeah.
Hey, look, we've all got cheap tools, right? In
Yeah.
the States, it's Harbor Freight, right? So in the
Yeah.
States, we have Harbor Freight, which is, I just really only need this tool for one project,
Yeah.
kind of tools. Yeah, buy once, cry once, if you will.
What are your favorite tools? Tell me what, like.
Ooh, depends. So calipers, it's Mitutoyo, right?
Oh,
Do
yeah,
I own a
like,
set of Mitutoyos? No, I don't own a set of Mitutoyos. You know why? Her. She broke my last set of Mitutoyos.
Or
She
and
knocked them
dial or
off of my
digital?
desk, and one of the jaws broke.
Oh,
So I have cheap $10 Amazon calipers because they're good enough. And I'm
Yeah.
not going to lose $180 worth of calipers to this cat wanting to come and mess with the keyboard. Hand tools, vintage Craftsman. Absolutely vintage Craftsman. And I still have...
so I beg to differ, and this is a brand that I was introduced to. It's called Engineer. It's a Japanese brand called Engineer.
Oh. Okay.
Now they make a whole range of pliers, but I always get the ones with the black kind of transformer techno handles. But these are like needle nose pliers with the little wire cutting bit is like one of the most go-to tools in the workshop. Right? And I was like, this is something that I use like every day, at least 10 times a day.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I use these more than my toothbrush.
Like
Right.
if it was fashionably accepted, I'd have a tool belt with just like quick draw needle nose. Give me a nut driver, a whole
Yeah.
set of Allen hex keys. Yeah, I'd have that, but it is not fashionably
Oh
accepted.
man, the hex keys are the best. They do hex drivers in both.
How expensive are these? Am I about to hate you for how expensive this is going to be?
I will buy you a pair of engineer pliers. But check out, get yourself on YouTube and check out their screw removal pliers. Engineers, like this sounds
I'm
weird.
looking at them.
Engineer screw removal pliers.
Okay, they're not as bad as I thought they were going to be. The little engineer miniature pliers for $17. That ain't bad. I'm gonna have to get me a pair.
Do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that. Because tools are a big deal, and I might get a lot of flack for this. I have so many pairs of needle nose pliers because I lose them. But the ones that I always end up finding are the damn ones that come with Prusa printers. Because you know what? They're not bad. They're not great, but they're not bad. Their tip, the way they come together, is not good. I have a pair.
That's what I love about the engineer pliers. All the serrations.
It's perfect.
Oh, yes. And
there's nothing better than a good tool, right? There's nothing better. And that's like
and really, really like good quality, like a really high hardness steel on the wire snips as well.
like a Wera screwdriver. Like, yeah, they're expensive, but you know what? They're pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Now I know what the engineers are getting for Chris. See, I'm like, I don't know what to get the engineers on our staff for Christmas and holidays. I'm like,
get them each a pair of engineer needle nose pliers.
So thankfully I don't think a lot of our staff watch our videos because they're used to me talking all the darn time. So hopefully they don't see it because that's what they're getting.
That's what I'll send our resellers. I'm gonna make them little packs of like, these are the best damned pliers ever, and you'll love them.
I mean, geez, they're affordable enough, and I bet I could get decent rates. I might even look at carrying them as a stock item, because, I mean, geez, I get calls all the time about, oh, what do you use? What do you use for this and that? They're like, oh, the calls we get for what filament do you use? I'm just like, this is odd. Like, I use Atomic, I use Jessie PLA, and then, like, for random stuff like Rainbow Silk, it's like whatever's cheapest on Amazon. Because that is a part that is for an example. It does not serve a functional purpose for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to look interesting. The filament looks interesting. Like,
it's going to look cool on a time lapse. That's Thursday's time lapsed.
Yeah.
It is interesting. So yeah, I mean, that's, geez. Now, what about for flush cutters? Are you using their flush cutters too, or I use the Heiko flush cutters? Yes.
No, man. Like, the Heiko ones are like...
Are they garbage comparatively?
My God, bro. Like, you don't even know. Like, you don't even know what you... Like, the Heiko ones are... Like, they're made out of stamped sheet metal that is, like, formed into that plier shape. And they do a good job of it. And I think
they're hard.
Yeah, and I think they're using 17.7 or something like that. And so it's like formable and then post-hardenable. Like, and they do a decent job on the grind, but
I think I'm just gonna need you to send me a recommended tool loadout from Engineer, and I'm going to include it in the description. Sanjay's tool loadout, right? That's I absolutely need to have that. Like,
my three must-haves are the Engineer plier, like needle nose pliers, the Engineer screw removal pliers.
Yeah, those are pretty.
Which I don't always use for screw removal, but they're for like grabbing shit. When you like need the pliers for like grabbing something and holding on to, like, so that you can like rip some other part of something off of it, or like whatever it is you need to do. Those are the pliers that never let go. What's the beauty of them is that they have serrations in. It's not just that they have serrations in two directions.
Parallel. They're parallel, not just perpendicular.
But they're parallel and perpendicular.
So which double bites. Okay.
You can grab anything and it's fully constrained. So, like, needle nose pliers are good for grabbing something and then pulling it out, but translating it to the right, you don't have any grip.
Yep.
Or rotating it, you don't have any grip. Whereas those things, you can grab something and have it in full constraint and compression, and then absolutely like tear the ever-loving hell out of it.
Yep. And all the strip screws are and see, you know what? It would have been funny because if I had one of those screw removal pliers, I probably wouldn't have had to heat that Nozzle X to get it out of the heat block. Because ultimately I ended up prying up on it and then using a nut driver, and I was able to grab like half a thread to get it to screw out. And then I just cut the heat block in half because it was ruined anyways.
If any of you damn users use those Engineer screw removal pliers on our nozzles, I hate you forever, and your warranty is void, null, and you're dead to me.
Yeah, I bet that would be a bit of a problem. Oh, I am so excited for Sanjay's tool loadout, right? That could be a video in and of itself, going through it, because yeah, it's going to be expensive, but this is a buy it once and never buy it again. Like, I've got to have 10 pairs of those Heiko flush cutters because there's 3 behind me, there's 2 above me, there's 2 out on the sets, and I know that some of the other definitely not things that shouldn't be work surfaces that have turned into work surfaces have a pair there too. But if it's something that I'm going to care about, I'm going to keep an eye on it. And
so those flush cutters, I mean, you know, there's got to be like, I don't know how many engineers there are, but for the longest time there was 1 pair of those, and they were used constantly every day by everyone all the time.
It's like the good chair in the office.
Eventually they did, you know, eventually I managed to put a nasty like nick in them trying to cut what turned out to be an Allen key. And that did that, and I gave it some, and that did do them. But up until that point, I'd even cut like piano wire with them, which is freaking impressive.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of impressive, how do you get your hair so perfect?
Demafix?
Yeah?
Yeah, Demafix. Or any other bed adhesion related aerosol spray.
There was a part of me that was like, come on.
Well, that's what Demafix is. It's just for, no, but
it's hairspray.
Funny story is that I did, well, it's not hairspray. I think it's closer to like carpet. I don't know. I gotta hand it to the Demafix guys. I don't know what they're putting in there, and it's got some like polyacrylate, polyester kind of a vibe to it, but it's not just hairspray. They've got some, it smells like you've got like methacrylates in there as well, and something that's like a bit more anyway.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that when they're using, you know, different products, I'm like, huh. Oh, that's what makes it smell like. I'm thinking about the chemical makeup of it, right? I'm glad I'm not the only one that does this. It makes me feel a little bit less weird.
Really horrible, and like, oh, I don't know if I should say this. You shouldn't do this, but pretty much every like plastics engineer does this, and it's you light a piece of the plastic on fire, let it burn a little bit, and then blow it out. And you kind of get a little bit of a sniff on the, and you can tell what it's made out of. You can tell what it's made out of.
I've never done that. That would be irresponsible.
And I even have some plastics engineering textbooks that have like a tasting notes table as to like what they are.
That's, I mean, because without like a mass spectrometer, there's not really a good way to do it otherwise, right? You know, you can tell if it's got glass fiber or glass ball by running a knife through it, but kind of otherwise, if there are no maker marks, light it on fire. No, of course, nobody at 3D Musketeers or E3D condones such behavior, and if you do that, you are doing it at your own risk. There's your disclaimer.
Yeah. And the other thing that I do, again, is biting the filament to figure out what plastic it is, because we have like a lot of unlabeled spools and stuff that gets like rewound and
bite it.
Yeah, and so like your polyesters, so like your PETGs, and your polycarbonates are like chewy but a bit sticky, whereas ABS is a bit softer and chewier but doesn't have that like sticky, clingy tooth feel to it. And then PLA is very distinct because it's very hard.
As I'm grabbing a piece of PLA off to see what it's like. Because I've never done the teeth thing. If I have unlabeled,
that's the most reliable way to determine a mystery polymer.
Just don't bite hard so you don't end up going to the dentist.
Yeah, and
there you go. See, all right, PLA.
It's better than huffing the fumes.
Oh yeah, that is quite dense.
Yeah, now get yourself a piece of ABS.
I don't have it in reach. I'll try when we're done.
Or some PT, and you'll get what. Then you'll understand what I mean about the sticky tooth feel. You gotta have some PT. Go on.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's all behind me, so I gotta scoot over to get it. I don't keep filament too close to the desk. Here, let's.
But I feel like as a harm reduction,
let's go with some good stuff.
To our community, we should, don't burn it and huff it.
Oh yeah, it's way softer.
Yeah, and it's got that like sticky, it like clings to your after the bite. Yeah. And when you unbite, it's got like a sticky like sticks to your. If you compare that to ASA or ABS.
I'm here eating filament on camera for reasons I can't understand, other than Sanjay said I have to do it.
I'm sorry, dude.
No, it's just, you know what? It's brilliant because it's
better than huffing the fumes, right? And
way more better than huffing the fumes.
Identify and successfully use some plastic, then like just be careful, kids. Don't break your teeth and blame Sanjay.
Oh man, yeah, don't do that, dude. You are doing all of these at your own risk.
What are you, Elf? You're master of what? What is your role? What is your purpose?
I'm here to lick faces and be cute, she says.
Yeah, I think so, huh? All right.
Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. Boy, howdy, was it a ton of fun to make. I don't think I've had this much fun in an interview in a long time. Sorry to the people that we've interviewed, but Sanjay was just a lot of fun. But a special thank you to all of our patrons. Your names are listed right next to me. Thank you guys so much for everything that you do to help make videos like this possible, because guys, this 3 hours of my time is a lot of time in the middle of a day. And again, thanks to Sanjay for being able to take time out of his busy schedule when he's supposed to be on vacation right now. He's got stuff to do, man. The guy deserves a break. Anyways, right below me is going to be the E3D Revo coverage that we've done previously. And right next to that, probably do a video all about hot ends, because that video is going to be antiquated by the time the Revo comes out. And that just means I get to do another one. I'll see you guys down in those comments. I am really looking forward to the conversations down there. Take care.